Good evening and welcome to Classroom Connections. Start with me. My name is Sean Nagle and today's date is August 31st, 2012. And this presentation will be going over some researchers and their findings on education and how it is affected by our American culture and vice versa. Uh, I'm a firm believer in you first need to know the past before you can change the future, or you're doomed to repeat the same mistakes. Uh, and then after that, next we'll be hearing from Cher Wagner uh, on equality and respect in her classroom. Also, she'll talk about how she's committed to these students in the classroom and how she motivates her students. And finally, I'll be talking about 3 learning goals I have related to respecting my students, their family, and their cultural differences. So I read 2 very interesting articles about our changing American culture. The first being an article published by the Hoover Institute, Stanford University, entitled "The Changing American Family" by Herbert Kelvin. And the second article was entitled "Family Structure and Children's Educational Outcomes," written by the Center of Marriage and Family and published by the Institute of American Values, which examines the fact that a lot has changed over the last 35 years. Children being raised in 2-family households has dropped significantly, about 85% of families in 1968 to only 70% in 2003. And these portions of the families living with single parents household has nearly doubled. Before they reach the age of 18, a majority of U.S. children are likely to spend at least a significant portion of their childhood in a one-parent house. Also, in this article about the family structure and children's educational outcome, they really look and break it down preschool readiness and into these different sections of elementary education and also um, the high school achievement and completion, college attendance, misbehavior at school, smoking, illegal drugs and alcohol consumption, sexual activity and teen pregnancy, illegal activities, psychological problems, and really it just goes on to say, and I will go into a little bit more depth in each of these areas to say if a family is or raising a child in a married household, they have a much better chance of success in all these areas. And actually, one of my favorite pieces from this article was at the very bottom they had a side box. If the U.S. family structure was as strong today as it was in 1970, and they break it down, 643,000 fewer children each year would fail a grade at school. 1,040,000 fewer children each year would be suspended from school, and they just go on and on. But really, what I like to focus on is the fact that we're not going back, and we need to be able, as educators, to know that our society and our families and the children that we have changed from where they were in 1970. And we need to move forward and teach these children with the strategies that we have today. And in this article with the preschool readiness, they just state that children who are 3 to 4 years old and families with married parents have fewer behavior problems compared to the children whose parents live together but are not married. For elementary children in 4th grade, they looked and said that married parents, these children, they score higher on their reading comprehension compared to the students that live with step families or in single mother homes. And they also go on to state that the lack of income and other resources explains some, but not all, of these worse outcomes experiences by children from non-married parent families. And also, they go on again and finally say that marriage itself is also a measurable impact on these educational outcomes. In this second article entitled "The Changing American Family," written by Herbert Kelvin, it talks more about how the American household has changed and not so much the educational impact of our changing society. It looks more at how the noticeable change since the 1980s. It's affected all ages, all races, and all ethnic groups. In the 1960s, the height of the baby boom, married families made up almost 3/4 of all households, but now the census of 2000, they only account for about 53% of them. Single person and childless couple households are on the rise. The national fertility total, it's currently barely reaching its replacement level. Uh, it's fluctuating between 2.0 and 2.1 children per woman over the past quarter century. And then also, although the U.S. fertility rate is declining to the lowest level in history, single women are now making up an increasing percentage of those having children. The rapid and very recent raise of births outside of marriage means that married women no longer are excluded um, of having children, but um, now they're making up a larger number of these births, and we're also seeing a change in the trends of the reflecting the change of economic role for women in the household, the dual parent household with children. The traditional family is no longer just a male breadwinner working along to sustain for the family. And we're seeing more women leaving the household and going into the workforce. We're actually seeing a consistent rise in the ratio of women that just a year after giving birth are going right back into the workforce. So as educators, we just need to keep this in mind. The families that are in our classroom, the children that are in our classroom, and we just need to make sure that we address their cultural differences. And now I'm going to introduce you to my field-based instructor, Cher Wagner. Okay, Ms. Wagner. So what challenges have you seen in terms of equality and respect for your students' culture and family differences? What challenges have you noticed while teaching in your classroom?
Well, since I've been teaching with PA Cyber, something that is very noteworthy is the amount of students we have across the state. Being that we are educating from Western PA, Eastern PA, Northern PA, we have a variety of students from a variety of backgrounds, and that makes it an interesting challenge that many other schools may not have such a diverse background of students as far as locational demographics. We have students that come from a more of an inner city background, more rural backgrounds. So within that, there are several challenges that we have to address. Typically, these are going to be school-wide, such as will they have access to internet and computers, and what will their background experience be with these sorts of technologies.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and so how, in your classroom, do you increase students' learning and motivation?
Well, Sean, I'm so glad you asked me that question because I am dedicated to interacting with my students and really trying to get them motivated to want to learn and do the work. That's so important to me. So there's so many ways, and being that we are on the computer, I have to come up with a lot of creative ideas to implement things for students using technology that will maybe excite them. So I believe in utilizing music to bring in a lesson, using things like podcasts, vodcasts to let the students get to see videos of me and get to know me, using the webcam, using interactive videos, giving them links that they can use, and actually go online and explore through web quests, things of that nature. I also definitely love to use other technology. We'll go with the iPad, even though it's not necessarily my favorite product. I feel for some students, just being able to practice on that sort of a platform can encourage them to want to practice, let's just say, their multiplication tables through an application that would allow to do so. So with technology, you have to get willing to get out there, check things out, explore, see what's new, see what's improving, and constantly be learning yourself. Because before you blink your eyes, there is something bigger and better out there, and it's
Sure is.
constantly evolving. So to keep my students motivated, I have to stay motivated myself.
Okay. So, when you're teaching at PA Cyber, how do you account for these diverse students, and how does this affect your teaching?
Well, Sean, that is a loaded question. I mean, like I mentioned, there are several obstacles to overcome because of the diversity of the students. But I would say the major issues that we have to tackle are the technology-based issues, because this is a cyber school. So it's a little bit different than what you would typically face in other classrooms. So there's several things that we do. First of all, the wonderful thing is we are a public cyber charter school, so we have the funding to provide the technology and also the internet through our funding for the students. Once we get past that hurdle, for all of our students, there will still be several that we have more obstacles to overcome, such as maybe they live in an area where there is no Comcast or high-speed internet available. So then
Right.
we have to look at providing another type of internet and teaching them how to use it. Then we must also choose the appropriate curriculum. So for example, if we have a student that only is able to have access to dial-up internet, we must provide them with a type of curriculum that they will be able to move through on that slow type of internet service. Such other issues are when you look at more of like inner city, oftentimes the students aren't as exposed to the type of technology that our students that have a little bit more of a background that has allowed for them to have computers in the home and access for their computers. So we have students coming in that really do not have much. There's several ways that we can help. We do have a course built in that will show the students how to navigate through different things such as email. We also have been opening up several on-site locations that students and families can come into and learn how to use the technology appropriately. And then, of course, we have a ESL provider for students that maybe are not English as their first language. And she works with us to help assist those students make the best progress. Finally, when you're looking at actual virtual classroom teaching, you want to take all of this into the account. Being that I work in special education, when I plan for each teaching lesson, I have an IEP to work from. So that's actually beneficial on my aspect that I have the background information of that student. And so I plan appropriately. I look at each of my students as an individual, and I will take into consideration any changes and adaptations we need to make to help them be successful.
Great, thank you. So, I really want to extend a sincere thank you to Cher Wagner for letting me interview her, and also for her to let me observe her in my field-based activities. So, what I want to learn in the coming weeks are first just the ability to know that I'm taking time to let my students shine, to let them share what's going on with them, to share what makes them special. And also, I know that we've been taking online surveys through the web, and I've seen some holes in my teaching. A lot of the time, you get teaching and you see a student not responding, you just think, oh, they're just being defiant, or they're just not into the lesson, and you go on. But I need to keep in mind that sometimes you just need to ask the student what's going on, maybe just through a private note. And I just find sometimes by making that little sending that little note to the students really makes a difference in their attitude, and letting them know that I am there for them, and that I do care. And what I plan on doing in the future is just weekly. asking the students how they're doing, to give a green check if they're having a good week, or red X if they're having a bad week. And if I continuously see red X's, I plan on sending an email to the student, and then also if no responses return from them, send an email to the parents and just maybe see what's going on, send some feelers out. And then lastly, I've come across a few students and parents that refuse to take part in a few assignments, and uh, sometimes I feel like they're just, again, being defiant and just giving me a hard time, but I really need to be conscious and respect their views. For instance, I had a student that did not believe in the Holocaust, and I just thought that was absurd until I got an email from their parents saying the same thing. So again, just being open in the future to that, and giving them an alternative assessment to take. I mean, really, just respecting their differences and their families' differences, and just going on and teaching, and not making that a hang up. So I really thank you very much for taking your time out of your day to watch my video. I hope you enjoyed it. All right, enjoy the rest of your day.